One. Good morning and welcome to No Limits. I'm Duane Adams, Associate Director of the Small Business Center at Asheville Buncombe Technical Community College, where we are changing lives and strengthening communities by being dedicated to student success and delivering quality education to enhance academic, workforce, and personal development. Of course, the show would not be complete without my co-host, Miss Leronica Casey. Good morning, Leronica.
Good morning, Duane, and good morning, Asheville. How are you?
I'm doing great, and it's just great to be back. It's been a while since we've been on the air.
It has been, well, it's been almost a year. It's been a year.
It has been almost a year. So we've been hearing a lot of great things from the community, though. Want to thank all of our dedicated listeners for sure. I've had a lot of folks asking about us coming back on, saying they heard us on the radio, saying we've heard that show before, but we still want to hear you and Leronica. So when are you all coming back on? You're all coming back on, right? So we're back, and it's definitely great to be back. And we got a great guest today that we're going to kick off the new year with, if you will, for us. And I think a lot of folks will be excited to hear from this person. What do you think?
I think so too. I can't wait. I'm glad to have him back on. He's one of the original pioneers. And so, I'm just
one of the OGs who's younger than me, but I still call him OG. So. OG. But anyway, let's get into some announcements and we'll get into the show. So just mark your calendar because October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. The pandemic has caused us to ask a lot of folks to stay home, but we must realize that every home is not a safe one. Take some time this month to learn about the resources in the community that do great work to support those survivors. Be sure to visit helpmateonline.org for more information. And also, if you're a person of color who is looking to obtain a little capital to boost your business, the 2021 Hazel Fox Business Plan Competition may be for you. Dr. Joseph Fox of Fox Management Consulting has partnered with the AB Tech Small Business Center to offer the opportunity for 4 businesses to receive $2,000 each. If you're interested in learning more, please visit sparktanknc.org/opportunities.
And AB Tech is also one of the sponsors of the upcoming Woman Up workshop on Wednesday, October 27th from 8 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This workshop is entitled Deepening Racial Equity Practice, and it is being hosted virtually via Zoom. So for more information and to purchase tickets to this virtual event, visit the Asheville Area Chamber of Commerce website at ashevillechamber.org/events. Wow.
Awesome.
That sounds like it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, definitely. And just keep in mind, there are a variety of programs, services, and events that take place at and around AB Tech. Be sure and check out the college's calendar page, www.abtech.edu, for more information. All right. Wow. So let's get into the show.
Yes, let's get into it.
It's a pleasure to be back on the air here at WRES. Our last program was about a year ago, as you said, as we all chipped away at the challenges that presented themselves with COVID-19. The world is certainly a different place today than it was last year, and even the year before. We've had a lot to endure, a lot of changes. Some have been positive and some more challenging. On June 10th of this year, we lost a good one. Elder Hayes was not just the old school dude on the radio that played that old school music. He was a pillar in the Black community, a true visionary. He stood for inclusion before it became one of those fancy terms that everyone likes to throw around. His vision included everything: Black and brown, male and female, gay and straight. He never pulled his punches, and he was always consistent. Of all the things that he did in the community, he was mainly known for his role here on the radio. No matter when you tuned in, you could hear this old school dude speaking truth to power. Today, we're going to learn a little more about Elder Hayes' commitment to education, his relationship with AB Tech, and the spark that ignited No Limits, which is why it is my pleasure to welcome an old friend, the original voice of the No Limits radio show, Mr. James Lee.
Good morning,
James.
Good morning. Good morning. It's so good to see you, Duane and Leronica again. Man, I have missed you guys, and I do miss Asheville. Good morning and welcome, Asheville. I'm so happy to be able to be back on the radio with you guys.
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. So those of you who may not know, James is now the CEO of the Boys and Girls Club of Cedar Valley in Waterloo, Iowa.
Waterloo, Iowa.
He's in
Okay.
a different time zone.
Yes, an hour behind you guys.
Definitely,
Wow.
definitely. So it's great to know that we have the technology to keep up with our old friends like James who are on the other side of the world. And I know that you're a busy man, and we appreciate you joining us today just to reminisce a little and give us some insight on how it all started with WRAS and AB Tech. So just real quickly, man, where in the world is Waterloo, Iowa? I know there's one in South
Yes.
Carolina. I think Leronica told me that, but Waterloo, Iowa?
It is. It's northeast Iowa. So about 3 hours away from Mall of America. Not that I would know that by experience or anything. About 4.5 hours away from Chicago, 4.5 hours away from St. Louis. I mean, literally, you can do day trips all the way around on all corners. So it's a pretty nice location.
That's awesome. That's
Very
awesome.
good. And so now, James, most of our longtime listeners probably know that you were the original voice of the show, and you just said, like you said, you're a native to Asheville. But first, can you tell us a little bit about your journey prior to coming on board to AB Tech? How did you get to AB Tech?
Yeah, I actually started out working for the city of Asheville in economic development as a minority business coordinator, and saw this great opportunity to work with businesses at AB Tech, and decided to apply for the workforce development coordinator position, and somehow got the position, and began to work with businesses and industries, and trying to help enhance business in the community.
Very
And
good.
James, so once you got to AB Tech, what exactly was that job title? And what did you do specifically in that role?
So I would work with manufacturing. Well, I originally started out just really kind of going out to businesses and providing or letting them know that we have opportunities to connect in our continuing education side. So we would do Excel classes specifically for the business industry. So if there was a company that had several employees that they wanted to do Excel classes, we would actually schedule that out and bring it to their facility to actually implement it, or they could come to the campus and have that Excel class. We could also work them into the open enrollment Excel classes with continuing education. And then as kind of AB Tech continued to morph, we started focusing more on the customized training program that was mainly with manufacturing industry. So expanding businesses within the community in Western North Carolina, we would really work with them on providing advanced manufacturing programs that they needed supervisory or leadership training. We would bring that in through that state funded program.
Very good. And so, James, tell us a little bit about your relationship with Elder John Hayes. Most people of color, and not just people of color, who are from this community, knew who he was. And so, when was your first interaction with Elder Hayes, and was it as a youth or was it later in life?
It was definitely around my teenage years. Of course, I was being a knucklehead, which most people probably couldn't imagine that. But some of my friends were like, "Oh yeah, I remember that those days." You know, you had Elder Hayes standing there that would be like, "Nope, nope, y'all can't go down that path." And he would always
Exactly.
provide those encouraging words of redirection. And even though during the time I was like, "Man, this old dude don't leave me alone. Let me let me do my dirt." He was still continued to not give up on us. And so
Wow.
was one of the first interactions that we had when we started talking about the No Limit show with AB Tech. I reminded him of that time that I was up to no good, and he was standing there talking to me and a couple of my partners, and he was like, "Nah, I don't remember that." I was like, "I'm glad you don't, because I definitely do." And you probably wouldn't let me in the station if you remembered it.
Yeah, you'd never imagine James doing anything wrong. So that's really an interesting thought. So
Exactly.
exactly when did that conversation for No Limits? When did that start? At what point?
Oh man. So it was early when I got to AB Tech. Walking around downtown trying to just to meet with some different businesses there, and happened to bump into Elder Hayes, and he was talking. He was like, "Man, I thought you were with the city," and I was like, "No, I moved over to AB Tech," and started kind of sharing what I was doing with AB Tech, and he was like, "Y'all should do a show. There's so much going on at AB Tech. Y'all should be on the radio. There's no reason why you shouldn't be on the radio." And I was like, "Yeah, there's no reason why somebody else should not be on the radio, not me." And he's like, "No, no, you're the perfect person. You're good. So look, let's sit down and talk. Go back and talk to your folks and see what if they're interested in doing it." But it was literally probably I say July timeframe, June, July period. I can't remember the exact timing, but I remember it was hot because I was in a suit and I'm sitting there walking around downtown Asheville, and he stops me in the middle of downtown Asheville while I'm still in a suit now. I'm sweating and we're
And it's
talking
hot.
and it's hot. And so I'm like, yeah, that sounds great. So that's how the conversation started. And it's hard to believe that, that was all the way back in 2013. So we're talking about 8 years ago.
Wow, yeah.
Crazy.
I always think it's so important that people understand how systems and processes work, because I always tell folks, if you want to influence change, you have to understand how the system works. So works currently. So this vision became a partnership between a community college and a nonprofit entity, essentially. So tell us a little bit about the process for getting the show up and running. I mean, like it probably happened for you, like things happen for me. It's like somebody comes to me with an idea or a suggestion, and I'm like, we live in a bureaucracy here. So it's like, how do I even approach getting this done? How did you go about that?
So originally went to my supervisor at the time. It was Cindy Hamilton, and said, "Hey, wouldn't this be a great idea if we were on the radio sharing about not just our work, but you know the academic side as well as the continuing ed side? Like, how can this be a great partnership?" And so she said, "That really does sound like a great idea. I think we should kind of pitch this up the chain of command and see how it goes." And so she talked to her supervisor, which at the time was Shelley White. And then I guess Shelley took it to the executive leadership team there. And at the time, I believe Dr. Dunn was the president. And they had conversation, then came back down that same channel of, "Hey, here's the people we need to get involved," which Carrie Glover, I think, was literally brand new there. So I had no clue who she was. And I was like, "Carrie, who?" "I don't know anybody named Carrie. Who's this person?" It was like, "Oh, she's a new marketing executive director." And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." So we tried to set up a meeting, and her and Martha Balls sat around the table, and we kind of started discussing what could this look like.
Okay. And yeah, so who else were those folks who needed to be at the table in order to make everything happen? And also, James, why do you think that this partnership was so important for our community? I think you just touched on that.
So the thing is that as we were looking at as a college, great idea to look at who we were serving and why we were not serving minority students at greater numbers, considering that it was right in our backyard. So we wanted to make sure that we could reach the community, meet the community where they were, especially minority community. And a lot of the minority community got their information from Elder Hayes's radio station.
Right.
So that's kind of how the conversation was pitched: is if we truly have this commitment to reaching the minority community to share about the great things that they have access to and opportunity to, and we all believe, because I wholeheartedly believe that we're continuous learners.
Right.
So there's never enough education that we could get. So if we want to share this information, how do we get this information to the people so that they can then utilize that to better themselves? And so Carrie came in the room, and Martha Ball, it was my supervisor, Cynthia Hamilton, I believe Shelley White was in there. And I even think at one point, Dr. Dunn made a appearance in there. And for me, being new to the college and now creating all this wave saying, "Hey, let's spend some money and let's do this radio show, and let's get things going so that we can reach more people, especially minority people." I'm like, oh man, is he coming in here to fire me now?
Yeah, it's got to be a little intimidating for sure. Yeah.
So it was
Right.
really a group of people. I think we also had someone from the academic side that came in, some advisors that came in and just kind of talked about how can we make this a true partnership. And the best way that, and I think it was Carrie that said, we need one person from continuing education to be a host, and the co-host needs to be someone on the academic side so that it's balanced and both all information on both sides are being shared to the community at the same time.
Right. Okay.
That's great. So I know that Phyllis Utley was your co-host for a while because she was with me for about a year or so before Leronica took the spot. So I had the opportunity to come on a few times before coming on as one of the hosts. And was Phyllis your co-host from the beginning, or did she link up with you later?
No, she from the very beginning, she was the co-host. We were sitting there talking about, well, they selected me because I was like, hey, here's this great idea. They said, oh, well, you're going to be the host for the continuing education side. And so I said, well, there's some great people like Duane that would be great for this, that has much better voice than I do. They didn't listen to me, so they still put me on there. And then
Time was coming. His time was coming.
this time
That
was
was the
coming.
last straw.
And then on the academic side, Carrie said, well, what do you think about Phyllis? And I was like, absolutely. Like, that's exactly who needs to be at the table with me. I think I loved her energy. Like Phyllis had, if you've ever been in a room with Phyllis, she has a way of igniting energy and getting you excited. There's a couple of times she almost had me signing up for classes at AB Tech because of her excitement. So I'm like, absolutely, because, we need that excitement on the air because we need to energize our community to want to be and to receive a higher education.
And shout
So
out to
real quick,
Phyllis
I want to
Utley.
jump in. I got to jump in and say something. I want to thank James on the air because James has always been great at helping a brother out. You gave me so many opportunities, man. When I came on with Med Week, you gave me the opportunity here at No Limits. When you went to the Boys and Girls Club, you gave me opportunities to go there and being from the young folks and be involved. So I thank you for that heavily, man. And that's what our people need to do for each other. That's how we lift each other up. So you taught me that, James. And I really appreciate it, man.
I appreciate that. Absolutely. We gotta help each other out because we're in this. It truly takes a village to really build our community. And so we've gotta work together to really make it. That's how we've made it all these centuries. So we got to continue that.
Exactly.
Amen.
And
Thank
shout
you.
out to Phyllis Utley. Shout out to Phyllis, who is still continuing to do great things in our community. So shout out to her and for all of her great work. So James, do you remember when the first show aired? Do you remember the date and what was the topic and who were the guests?
Oh man. So the
Going back 8 years, 8 years.
8 years, it was September the 11th, 2013. I do remember that. The topic or the guest was Brian Clemens, who is the financial aid director, and then of course the wonderful and energetic Leronica Casey, who is the scholarship resource coordinator at the time.
Who, me?
Yeah, you. And we were talking about grants, loans, and scholarships that are available at the college. And it was a exciting time. That's probably why you didn't have me and Phyllis on here at the same time, because we might have just taken over the show again and started interviewing y'all.
That's exactly what would have happened.
Exactly. And also we had Jeremy Jackson, and Jeremy
Yes.
Jackson was a student at AB Tech at the time, and he was also the first recipient of the 100 Men and Women Minority Scholarship. And we had Jeremy on that show to talk about his experiences at AB Tech and what the future looked like. And and so the 100 Men and Women Scholarship is a scholarship created specifically for African American students at AB Tech. And this was actually created by Mr. Samuel Abdul Allah and Ms. Johnny Grant. And so since its inception, we have received and awarded over $20,000 to deserving African American students at AB Tech. And this is with an 82% completion rate.
Wow.
So I really would like to thank all of the people in the community who have donated and who continue to donate to the scholarship fund, because it has totally and completely made a difference in our students' lives. And, if anyone is interested, I'm gonna do a little plug here. If anyone is interested in donating to this scholarship fund, the 100 Men and Women Scholarship Fund, you can go to our AB Tech website at abtech.edu/giving to donate. So yeah, that was a fun time. That was a fun time being on that show.
I
Yeah.
I I remember that very well because I believe it was you, Veronica, that was like, "Are you going to give me a script? And why are you choosing me? What did I do? I didn't do anything wrong. Why am I on the radio?"
Exactly. Like, I
You
don't know
should have
about
been with
this.
me trying to get her to come on as my co-host.
Like, are you sure?
So James, tell us a little bit about the name, No Limits. Where did the name come from?
Man, so that was truly Elder Hayes' brainchild. Like, we were talking, and he was like, there's so much going on at AB Tech. We got to get the word out. How do we want to get the word out? You got to use the radio station. He was like, because look at it. If you go to AB Tech and you start out in the academic side and you get your certification, and then you continue on after 1 year and you get your degree, then you can continue on and you can get the next degree and you can get this next certification. There's truly no limits on where you can go. And then he was like, "That's what we're naming the show, No Limits."
Wow.
And I said, "Okay, yes, sir.
I love it.
Let's
I
do
love the
it."
name. Yeah,
Uh,
that's awesome. And
and
just for folks who may be just now tuning into the show, I just want to let them know that we have the wonderful Mr. James Lee back on. James Lee was the original voice of No Limits, so he generously gave us his time today to come on and kind of just reminisce about things. And he's now in Waterloo, Iowa. He's a CEO of the Boys and Girls Club there. So once again, James, thank you for joining us. So were there any memorable shows or guests that you can recall? Is there anything or anyone just kind of stood out?
Oh man, there were so many guests that stood out. There's so many times that we went over. I think oh man, there was one that we were doing that I think was like an hour long, and then Elder Hayes said, "We're just going to play it."
Yeah.
And it
Well,
wasn't.
he
I
was
think
that good.
it was just that good because it was talking about it incorporated what AB Tech was doing with Med Week and there was another event that we were doing. Oh man, it was so big that because we were trying to invite youth to the campus, and he was just like, "We're just going to keep playing it." And he played it, I think, literally for on top of the other shows that we were doing that month. He just kept replaying it.
Wow.
But that was an hour-long show. I remember that because I was like, "Oh man, we're not run out of material yet. I'm only on question one, and we got an hour to go. We done an hour already. Well, let's wrap this up."
Exactly. And I have to say that I really enjoy and have learned so much from all of our guests, during my time on the show. So yeah, so James, we can't let you go without asking about you. So what's up with the Boys and Girls Club in Waterloo? Um, tell us how long you've been there. What is your role? And talk about the mission of the Boys and Girls Club.
So I've actually been there for just a little bit over 2.5 years, almost 3 years. This coming March. Hard to believe. Like, still feels like I've only been up here for a year. But my role is the chief executive officer, and we currently have 5 primary sites, 3 that we own and operate, and 2 that are in school. Over this pandemic, we've done a really great job at getting community support to keep us open and serving kids. We did have some self-imposed capacity limits during COVID. Kind of over the summer, we lifted those capacities to serve kids because our school district said that they wanted to serve as many kids as they could because of the learning loss due to COVID. So we opened up 3 temporary sites and served 750 kids between June and August a day. That's not just over the
Wow.
course of the summer, that's like a day.
Oh, wow.
So we had to open up 3 temporary sites. We're currently in the process of opening up a new location about 30 minutes away in a neighboring county. So things are going great. I mean, the community's been really supportive of the work that we're doing. Our mission is to inspire and enable all young people, especially those who need us the most, to reach their full potential as responsible, respectable citizens within the community. Our board of directors just adopted our 5 core values of consistency, servant leadership, mission focused, integrity, and inclusiveness. That is how we want to show up for our community and continue to serve and be the best organization we can be. We focused a lot of our work over the course of this COVID on our diversity, equity, and inclusion. So how does our board look? How does our staff look? And how are our kids being impacted by by those 2 other factors of board and staff? Always continuing to do the work of equity and inclusion as well as serving. So
Very good. Yeah. Yeah.
man, don't
Exactly.
tell anybody that I was able to say that in less than about 2 minutes, because then they'll be expecting me to do that all the time.
See, you're on the radio. See, yeah, it's coming. It's all coming back to you now. Yeah, short and concise. That's your radio pitch. Yeah, exactly. So now, what advice do you have for anyone who is looking to be an effective leader? You mentioned leadership.
Well,
So
we're going to do
what?
leadership, and then I want you to talk about education. How
Yeah,
important is education to you? So,
Oh
exactly.
man. So which one you want me to hit first? Leadership or education? I can do them because they're not
do education.
they're
Do
not
education.
they're not separate from each other. So education
Right.
education gives us the ability to have a level playing field. No matter what happens in our life, if we have the knowledge, then we should be using that knowledge. We have to, once you know better, you should do better.
Right.
And with the knowledge that we gain through education, we're able to do better, not just for us, but for our circle around us. When I went back to school and to get my degrees, like my kids began to do better in school because they saw me doing my work and studying and writing papers. So it's important to make sure that you kind of resemble and inspire other people to do just like you're doing. So
Right.
that's what education is important. And the same thing with leadership, that, like I said, they're not separate from each other. Leadership is the same way. To continue to inspire each other. Leadership, and why we chose not just leadership as a core value at the club, but as servant leadership, is because leadership is just leading people, but servant leadership is serving those that we are leading. It's important for us to make sure that we have those that are receiving our leadership and receiving our experience and knowledge and education. We're leading them in the right direction so that we can all grow together and be better together.
Right. Very
That's
good.
awesome.
Oh, but
So,
you asked the question. Sorry, but you asked the question. How do you inspire someone to get into leadership? Is just start out to just do it. It's not. I mean, we have a circle of influence, and we start with that circle of influence. We can't be scared or timid. Same thing with education. You can't be scared or timid. There's a lot of different ways to plug in, especially at AB Tech, and it is the most cost-effective way to start your education. I promise you, if I would have known, if I would have had all the knowledge that I have now about what AB Tech can offer, I would have went to AB Tech first before trying to go and get my 4-year degree. I probably would have saved a bunch of money, but did not do that.
Right.
Amen, brother. Same here. I
Right.
say that all the time.
Me too.
Exactly
Yes,
right.
exactly.
So I heard a quote not too long ago that says, "Our legacy is what lives on in other people after we're gone." I really don't know anyone in the community who didn't hold Elder Hayes in high regard. So
Mhm.
what were some of the things that you admired about him that you carried forth in your own life?
His willingness to serve the community at every turn, and not just to serve them, but to meet a need of the community. Whether it was with the Hillcrest Marching Band, there was a need for kids to be involved and to take pride in themselves, and he created that. There was a need for a radio station. He created that. This need of serving the community and meeting that need is something that always stood out, and I respect about Elder Hayes. Same thing when he was the president of the NAACP. I mean, when there was a need, he stepped up and filled that need and served the community. Was a true example of servant leadership.
Right. And I think you just touched on this, James, but as an African American male role model leader, um, you talked about the importance of education, how education is important to you. And but what other type of advice would you give to any African American male, young or old, who may be looking to attend college, but just may not know where to begin or may be apprehensive, to getting started, particularly when it comes to attending a community college? And I think you touched on that, but
It
can you?
yeah, it starts with just making the connection.
Mm,
I mean, a great way to do it. I don't know how many times Phyllis got a phone call because we made sure to throw out her number, or the website, to be able to start that interaction, to come in and schedule a meeting with individuals. The best way to do it is to start with a conversation out in the community. It was, I think, one of the reasons why both Phyllis and I made it a point to be out in the community as much as possible, is to be accessible and try and meet the people where they are.
mhm.
That you can expect people to, if we build it, they will come, because that's not necessarily the case for African Americans. That because of the institutional things that keeps us from stepping out there and going where the help is. So we have to be willing to go where they are, to have the conversation, to get them to come where the knowledge is and where the opportunities are. And so it starts with making those connections, having those conversations, scheduling those meetings, and just trusting the process. That's a big thing. You have to trust the process. I believe that there's a lot of caring folks at AB Tech. I miss you guys. And so there's a
Aw.
lot of caring folks there that want to help people meet their level of success. So you draft the plans for your life, and the folks at AB Tech helps to build it. So whether it's continuing education, getting a certification, getting into your career path, or it's in the academic side and you want to get a degree behind your name or a couple of degrees behind your name, it starts with having a conversation, getting in there and just doing it and building your own plan and letting the folks come alongside you to help.
Very good. So, James, tell me, what type of legacy do you want to leave behind?
Oh man. Um,
You got quite a few kids, man.
yeah, I know. I
That
was
may be
hoping
enough.
I was hoping to have a legacy of being able to sit on the beach, because one of those kids would help me retire early. But that's not working out so well for me. But I think honestly, one of the legacy that I would want to leave is similar to that of Elder Hayes, of one that when people say my name, they see me as someone who is a servant leader, who truly wants to connect with the people and serve the people, to be who they need to be and to be successful. So I want to be that kind of person that helps people out, and that when they say my name, they're like, James Lee, man, he was always there to help out. He was always there to build up the community. He was always community focused and people focused and cared about folks. So hopefully when my time has come, that my legacy is that I was a servant leader.
Very good. And
That's
that you
great.
are. That you
You're,
are. Yes.
you're definitely
Thank
doing
you
that.
so much.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you, James. And for those of you who may not realize that we didn't share this, I hope James doesn't mind me sharing, but James is a father of 9. So
Yes.
when people say they don't have time to do things, James is a father of 9. And,
Yes.
And he works full time.
and he works full time and he got a big job. He got a big job. So a few big jobs. So again, thank you so much for taking the time, James. Thank you all for listening to the show. Be sure and tune into our next episode of No Limits. We air every Monday and Wednesday and Friday at 11 a.m. This show is presented in collaboration with WRES 100.7 FM radio, where respect is in the music, and Asheville Buncombe Technical Community College, where we're changing lives and strengthening communities by being dedicated to student success and delivering quality education to enhance academic, workforce, and personal development. Thank you to Randy Weston, Ms. Sophie Dixon, and the Empowerment Resource Center for helping us to produce a great show.
And to the late Elder John Hayes, who created this great platform that allows our voices to be heard throughout our community.
And please support Black owned. If you like hearing our voices and would be interested in supporting WRES, please visit the website at WRESFM.com. If you have any questions or comments, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm Duane Adams, 828-398-7951, and Leronica.
828-398-7562.
A big thank you to James Lee, and a thank you to our guests for listening.
Have a great day, Asheville, and be safe.